Hello.
Hey,
How's it going?
good. How are you?
I'm good. Hopefully I have more luck with my live cast than I did last time.
This is my first time joining, so
Oh,
uh,
okay.
it's gonna be
Welcome.
better than nothing. So, right?
Yeah, I had trouble with my live cast yesterday. The live streaming didn't end up working for some reason. Now I'm trying to figure out why I can't even see today's live cast as an option. It's always
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I might have chosen no LinkedIn Live. Yeah, so I show up early because there's always something that breaks. It's
I'm just sitting here, you know, crashing out on stuff at work. So, like, I was like, yeah, I'll just join now, and when people start showing up, then I'll jump on.
yeah, we've got like a pre-show here. Some folks show up early. It's a thing for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I like doing these. So yeah, we do these obviously every week and people get a chance to show what they're building and yeah, it's fun.
Very cool.
Where are you based?
Indiana, actually.
Okay.
I'm a Midwest child.
I've flown over Indiana.
Many have.
It's, it's the most flyover states. No, that's like Wyoming or something.
It really is. What's crazy is like the I mean it has like the GDP of like Colorado, right? Like so it's not small.
Mhm.
But everybody's just like, "Oh, it's Indiana. It's got to be small." Not really. I mean, Salesforce has a headquarters here. Eli Lilly's headquartered here. Uh, I
Really?
mean, yeah, like
Oh, wow.
it's
Yeah, you got a race, I think.
and we have a race. There is a race. I think it's coming up here soon. It's actually gonna reach out to one of my buddies. He works for the sports agency that runs it, and so he was offering people up a tour the last week. So
Oh, well, that sounds
I
like
might go
fun.
down there and check it out. Yeah, no, it's I I don't mind it. I lived in Colorado for a long time and really, I mean, enjoyed it out there. But Indiana's not terrible.
Yeah,
Doesn't have
I'm in
mountains though.
I'm in Ontario, so not too far
Oh, okay.
away.
Yeah. See.
I'm sure it's fairly similar.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly warmer. You're a bit further south, but
Yeah. I mean, are you like Toronto area?
yeah, I'm just outside Toronto.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's like 4 hours away, three and a half, depending
Yeah.
on where you go. So,
Well, it
yeah.
depends if they stop me at the border and ask me about AI, but
Have they done that?
all the time. And
Really?
yeah, they love and like so last time they asked me what does AI stand for? I'm like and I'm now a jerk, right? So I said Adobe Illustrator, and I see him I see him writing it down. Didn't crack a smile or anything. Guess those border guys aren't too into the jokes.
Oh
Uh,
man, that's too bad.
yeah.
Did you see the Buffalo Bills? They like all the NFL teams are doing their like schedule releases or their things like that. So they've been doing a lot of creative things with those. And so the Buffalo Bills, they did one and they were like, so Josh Allen says, "Hey, let's use AI," right? And they go and find Allen Iverson. He's just pulling up papers of their schedule.
Yeah,
it's, uh, it's so funny.
I actually saw that. I saw that somewhere this morning. Funny enough, yeah. I
Yeah,
guess and
yeah.
there was and another football team got in trouble for doing something with like Minecraft or something. Maybe
Oh
that
yeah, that
was
was the Colts. That was Indiana. So that was Indianapolis. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You,
They built it out with basically in a Minecraft looking way, and they're like, we should take that down.
Yeah. And the Colts haven't done much since Peyton retired. Is that the story there? Is that
Yeah, pretty much it's sadness.
Oh yeah, you had a good run there.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. There's always hope for the next year, right? That's how sports work.
Yeah. It could be worse. You could be the Browns.
Don't yeah, no, I'm good with not being the Browns.
You know,
Uh,
they're perennial losers.
yeah, but you're close to Detroit, so I mean that's a
I kind of want to, I'm only an hour from Buffalo here, so I kind of wanted
oh
Buffalo,
really? Okay.
but
Yeah.
last year I wanted Detroit, and that was kind of a letdown. But anyway,
Mm,
like I think you kind of want the teams that are nearby. Detroit's probably about 3 hours away.
oh, okay. Okay.
Buffalo's not far at all. Assuming I don't get stopped at the border.
Right.
It's an hour when I can fly through. But what can you do?
Yeah. I like Detroit. I like the city. I like the architecture.
You should check out 8 Mile.
Yeah.
You ever been to Detroit? You know 8 Mile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything I know about 8 Mile I learned from the Eminem movie, but
Well, like it was like I think it was really the 80s and into the 90s. Like they would just I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but like on Halloween, people would just go burn abandoned like buildings, and there's so
yeah,
many abandoned buildings. So it's just a thing that they did on Halloween. It was absolutely crazy to me that that was kind of a thing.
yeah. Have you ever been to Rochester, New York? Kind of the same sort of vibe.
No, but I have been upstate New York to a couple different places. So yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, Rochester's one of those cities that you could tell was a big deal like 100 years ago, and everyone
Mm,
left. So
mm,
anyone that stayed is not there necessarily by choice.
yeah, they couldn't leave.
Yeah, for one reason, they couldn't leave. They don't have the money or whatever.
Yeah,
It's a weird town.
there's a fair amount of that in Indiana. I mean, there's definitely good and definitely bad.
Yeah, where's the Rust Belt start?
Um, that's a good question. I would say like Wisconsin would be the Rust Belt, the start of the Rust Belt, and then ends in Pennsylvania. So kind of comes, might be Minnesota. So yeah, so Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, those would all be considered Rust Belt.
Just getting my setup here, just doing a little testing. I'm gonna Today I'm gonna. And are you a developer? Like what do you do?
I I I do not claim to be a developer, but I dabble a lot, and I'm in the AI space. I do a fair amount of AI consulting and strategy work, mostly. But I also I'm a generalist. I build my own stuff. I I like to dabble. I like to build things. I like to problem solve. So that's really where I sit. So it's more about how do we operationalize and really build out true strategy around AI is what I'm focused on right now. That's ethical and um, sustainable. There's so many different tools in my opinion that are out there that are just junk, and they're just junk wrappers of ChatGPT. They're not optimized. They're full of holes, security and otherwise, and they're really not delivering the business impact that they claim that they can deliver. So I kind of focus on trying to find the right tools for the right time for the right strategy. I help companies take care of that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Now,
and I'm
I use
building some of my own models to right now for different applications that I'm working on. So
yes. As you probably know, I do a lot of the same sort of work.
yeah,
Yeah, business is good right now for agentics, that's for sure.
yeah, sure is.
So it's funny. The whole world mocked me when I changed my LinkedIn title to agentic engineer a couple years ago.
Oh
I
yeah,
can't get, but apparently it was the right move. So
yeah, yeah,
let that be a lesson, apparently.
yeah. I'm partnered up with like I actually just left my full-time position to go out on my own as a somewhat lone consultant. I'm part of a collective, and one of the people that I'm working with, she was marketing for 20 years, and about 3 years ago, she was like, um, marketing's going to get trashed by AI. I need to switch that direction. And so she really focused hard in the space and has really created a solid solid little niche for herself in AI literacy and market use of generative AI. So it's pretty cool.
I'd say that the one suggestion I'd have if you're independent that I've done that's worked really well for me is this idea of like being able to book have people book their time on their corporate credit cards.
Yeah.
So I've got this booking thing that I put together, and
Okay.
basically every day random people from all kinds of big companies or small individuals, whatever, they go on the site, they book a session with me, they click whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
that takes them to this Calendly page, and they put in their credit card, and it's spectacular. And there's no friction. Like I've got the biggest tech companies to, again, just entrepreneurs. They
Yeah.
select a time that works, and put in they put in their credit card, whatever, and boom,
Nice.
done.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. 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 I definitely need to set that up.
Yeah, it works great, and basically it's self-selected.
Yeah.
Anyone's willing to pay for your time, to meet with you is
Mm-hmm.
basically willing to pay.
Right. Right.
And then you just fool around with the price to figure out what demo you want, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if I lower my price, I get a lot more people. I can fill every hour of the day, but it's just too much. And so I ended up finding like an equilibrium of like being expensive enough that you need to have the money, and
Mm-hmm.
but also limiting the amount of time I have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked with I was testing the waters a couple months back, and I worked with one that was a one client that she wanted me to build everything for like $150, and I'm just like, yeah, no, that's we're not gonna do that.
Yeah,
we're, this is not the type of engagement that I want to be involved with.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. All right, I'm going to do the pre-stream. So just as an FYI, that means that some of what will be said might be starting to stream. So I just want to give you a heads up. Oops, I don't have permission to live stream. What? What's going on with this? Let me try one more time. That's why I test this stuff beforehand. Zoom's been giving me trouble lately. Oh, that worked. Yeah, that's why I show up early. Never works the first try. All right, who else we got on the call here? Yeah, nice to meet you, Josh.
You too.
And hi, I'm also here for the first time. So looking forward to attending it live. I've saw a few recordings, but yeah, I find it very interesting. To the very interesting topic.
Oh, thanks for joining. I hear 3 times this week. Long time listener, first time caller. It's become a thing, which I guess if it doesn't work out in agentics, I could be like an AM radio host or something.
Yeah, I'm always trying to keep up with the latest developments. I'm not in the field of coding, but yeah, I think it's really now time to basically step up or miss the boat.
Yeah, well, it's gotten absolutely crazy. This especially over the last, I'd say like month and a half, 2 months, the world's gone just absolutely bonkers for agents and MCPs. It's definitely the hottest thing going. If my LinkedIn inbox is any indication anyway.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, and I'm also starting now with Roo code and Spark, so I'm really just
Oh, okay.
learning. But yeah, the resources you make available, it's really yeah, it's a gold mine. So thank you so much for that.
No, my pleasure. And again, I share this stuff just as much for me because
Yeah,
it's a way to sort of share what I'm learning, and it sort of solidifies the things I learn, and
yeah, and
so
I also joined the WhatsApp chat, and I already mentioned that I'm in Texas, but mostly in education. I work for the University of Curacao. So teach tax law there, and I also want to
okay.
help the university make some steps in getting to grips with all the developments that are going. But yeah, if the Agentics organization still needs more volunteers, I'll be happy to help. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're always open to volunteers, no question. Yeah, if you
We do.
oh,
How you doing,
Yeah,
Ruth?
really be happy to help.
okay. So Rob, who do we got lined up? And oh, I see Sandy. Good to see you, Sandy.
Sandy Dunn.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So today we've got Alex. He's got some interesting stuff in his workflow that he's been working on as he's, building towards the AI integration on the fulfillment side. And I think David's got a few minutes as far as the web summit, and then we got some open air time. There's
Uh,
there's a ton going on. Brad has some updates, and then I've got some updates on chapters as well.
okay.
Yep, great to be back. I finally had to just block this on my calendar and just say, do not put a meeting over this meeting. So,
Well,
Fantastic.
congratulations on the fundraise. I see you guys are killing it, so that's exciting.
yeah, it is really it's super I mean, just like you said, Rube, super fun space. Everything's going so fast. And it's exciting to be part of it.
Yeah, it's high velocity is I think the key here. It's for me it's like I sort of put myself out there with anyone can book my time. So it's just crazy the things I see, random drug companies showing up and you know uh, it's like the breadth of the opportunities are so broad and crazy. You never know what's going to show up on any given day.
And conversations I've had with people this week with healthcare facilities where I talked about don't just throw, if you don't have good data access policies in place, and I gave a couple examples and I could see faces going white on the phone. Yeah, it's crazy. But super fun and as I always said, Ruben, I appreciate so much of what you share. I mean, you are so generous with your knowledge and a trusted source.
Well, appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to have a community that supports each other, right? Empowers us to do and try and push ourselves forward, right? So it's exciting. I really, this is like the highlight of my week.
Yeah.
So it's all right. We have 2 minutes. So if you want, you can take a minute, when we start to introduce what your company's doing. If you want to shout out.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to share, talk a
Okay,
little bit about my journey with how I got to where I'm at.
perfect. We love
You,
that.
yeah, you guys
Yeah.
have kind of been part of it, trying to, I kept trying to jump into different channels, places that I felt like were knowledgeable, where I could figure out like, how do I adapt? How do I know what's going on? How do I make sure that I'm knowledgeable? And joining this community was a big part of it.
Yeah, it's been just a little over a year, so it's been a wild ride for us. We're a little more technical, but it's been fun.
Well, and I could talk, I mean, just a little bit to kind of add on to what you were talking about, Ruben. I did a presentation to our local ISACA team yesterday, and I thought it was so smart because I always have tons of books, podcasts, groups, people I recommend to follow. And typically I put it at the end of my slides. And instead, this time, kept my slides shorter and just made it a really nice GitHub wiki so people could just go out, find all of the information. And as I shared, and then I created a QR code so people could just take their phones, go get it. Like, I'm trying to make it easy. And in the room, I could see when I talked about just go out to my GitHub and go get the resources. I could tell that they had no idea what I was talking about. So that's how big the gap is. People who have these long careers in audit and doing compliance and things, like they don't even know what GitHub is. That's how broad the lack of information and the surprises that are out there.
All right. Well, we're gonna jump back with we're at the top
Yeah.
of the hour. So I'm gonna just to warn you, I'm gonna hit the record button, so everything will be used against you from this point forward. And here we go. We're about to go live. Let me hit the. Oh, it looks like we've already been recording the whole thing. So somewhere someone's gonna have to trim this week's. I'm gonna go live here on LinkedIn as well. Alrighty, here we are. It's May 16th, 2025, and this is the AI Hackerspace Live here. So I'm excited. It's been another crazy, wonderful, busy week. Lots of new things to show and new things to discuss. I'm just chatting with Sandy here, a long time fan. Rob, who do we got lined up today?
We got quite a few folks lined up today, Ruben. A couple of things. First of all, we have Alex. Alex is in the eyewear industry, and he's going to show some of the elements and the tools that he's been building as he's developing his AI workflows. And then David's got some stuff in and around the Web Summit that's happening in Canada. Of course, we have Sandy Dunn, who's with us today and has been a longtime member. It's always great to hear from Sandy. We have a couple at Brad as well has got some updates on the Agentic Foundation. And I just wanted to let everybody know that UK London event is coming up. That's coming up next week. I believe that is on the 21st. And the UK event, London event, is going to be held, last I heard, at the Google offices there in London, arranged by our friends at Requesty. So we're really looking forward to that live event, but also we have now ambassadors that are arranging and beginning and coordinating for their live events in Singapore, Tokyo, Washington, D.C., Virginia, Florida. We've got Colorado, Columbus, Ohio, of course, Normandy, France. I'm not sure which town in Normandy, several cities in Italy, Frankfurt, Germany, all around the world. Events are lining up, and we're beginning the process of getting them set up. So it's going to be a really exciting summer as Agentic Engineering and the Agentics Foundation starts to spark local cities and communities around the world.
Well, there's a lot of information to unpack. I think the most interesting thing that just came out, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, is the ChatGPT just came out with a coding system, like
Mhm.
literally hot off the press, something like that. Whatever the right acronym or a metaphor is here. Let me give you guys a quick look. This is brand new. I just got this in my inbox literally 10 minutes ago. So this is ChatGPT launches Codex and AI online. So this not to be confused with their tool that they had, which is like a CLI tool for VS Code. This apparently is built into actually the system. I'm not. It's rolling out to starting day subscribers of ChatGPT Pro Enterprise and Team. It plans to expand access to, now I don't know if I just let's go take a look and see if it's actually available. I don't know. This might be too new to even tell. Let's see here. Where the heck do you think we'd find that? Uh, let's see if I can find it. No, I don't see it yet. I guess I don't have it. If anyone has access, let me know. I'm seriously interested in that. One of the things that I've been using a lot this week actually is the integration here of GitHub, which is one of the coolest new features that they've recently rolled out that allows you to basically integrate your GitHub repo directly into deep research. So in here you can see I was fooling around with my agent naming service earlier, so I'll give you a little demo there. So we're at the portion of our little weekly event here where I'll show you some stuff. So let's get going. This week's been interesting for me. I've been focused a little bit on trying some new systems. One of which was this system that I've become a pretty big fan of called Mastra. Mastra if you're Canadian, Mastra if you're American. Basically, it's an agent-based framework that allows you to create complex agents in TypeScript, and basically it's really powerful. It allows you to create MCPs and tools and other various capabilities. I really like the separation between the way that they handle an agent and the way that they handle these workflows. Now, one of the big things that actually jumped out at me in using this was how they've actually integrated the MCP directly. And so I built a prototype using a new project from the OnSwap, something like that, yesterday. So they came out with this agentic naming service. So I figured I'd give that a spin, but I want to try it. I want to try a new framework as well. So what I did is I went in here and I loaded actually. So this is Roo, for those who are unfamiliar, this is Roo code. You can install the Roo code extension. And I went in and set up the Mastra MCP. So you see there's a Mastra blog, there's a Mastra docs, and most importantly, there's a Mastra example. So in this case, what we can do is I created a memory, but I also updated my MCP option. So the MCP option in Roo allows me to sort of interact with these third parties and things like that. But what's cool about the Mastra, and this to me speaks to the sort of future of potential integration of MCPs within the structure of websites and commerce and sort of this idea of the separation of the human part of the internet from the kind of agentic or agent-centric part of the internet. This is a conversation Rob and I were having actually last night on one of our weekly update calls. And the idea that the right now the internet's essentially built for the data centric parts are APIs and DNSs and HTTP and that sort of thing, but it's not really optimized for this kind of agent style approach, right? When you look at the agent part of the websites, they're usually saying, here are the things we don't want you to look at. So what the Monster guys have done in terms of their MCP is that they've basically made it really easy for me to just point at their documentation and say, how do I build stuff? So let me show you exactly what that looks like. So I'm in my MCP mode. I'm actually using GPT 4.1. It's got a much bigger context. When you're using MCPs, sometimes context matters in terms of size. So in this case, I'm using that. So in this, I'm going to say, tell me how to create a Mastra workflow. And I'm just remind it using the Mastra MCP. Now, this is so what you're going to see here is if all goes well, and the reason why I've updated to this to sort of know about the Mastra MCP, and if you look over here, you'll see that I got a bunch of descriptions that basically tell you how to use it. This will automatically invoke the Mastra docs, right? Now, in this case, it's looking at the doc pass. It's discovering how to use it. But what's cool is because it also has the examples endpoint, which I can go here and I can maybe I'll go tell it to use the. I'll go back here for a moment. Oops, why isn't that? I'll go here and I'll just remind it I want to use not the docs. Let's tell it to use the examples. So I'm just going to say use this, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to say. I'm gonna say use Mastra examples to find an example. Let's see what that comes up with. So basically what this is doing is sort of interactively going back and forth with their documentation, examples, and then I can get it to easily implement whatever it is I want it to implement. So now it's using, it didn't give it an example, which is interesting. Maybe I'll need a little more guidance. And now it's saying, here are the different options. You've got agents, A2A, you've got memory systems, you've got Mem0, all these different things. And now it's looking at the different options. So it really makes this kind of autonomous development super simple. So what can you build with that? So in this case, I built another agent. It built out all the code. What does that look like? So I'm going to jump in over a lot of time. So I'm just going to jump and show you what the front end looks like. I created this agent naming system, but more importantly, Mastra has this really nice, elegant sort of UI that you can use. So I'm just going to go with the weather agent just as an example how to. What's the weather? What the weather in Toronto? Now I'm going to go back here. Now, two things are going to happen here, right? It's going to give me the weather, obviously, but I can also go back here and see what's happening on the command line. So well, I guess in this case it's not showing me for some reason, but that's okay. We've got the trace. The trace will also show me each step along the way. So this shows each of the steps. So if you want to sort of optimize or see what's happening behind the scenes, it gives you that. You can run in evaluations, which I don't have currently running, but you can have different ways to evaluate the components. You've got various different options for tooling. You see, you got the Master blog tool that I created, and I've got the weather tool. We got these workflows that are created that allow you to sort of create a kind of visual element here to the system, which is pretty cool. So I go in here, I can see that there's different steps. So let's just look at this step for a moment. It creates a little graph. I can run those. I can interact with all the endpoints. This is 100%. Like literally last night, the guys came out with this project, the agent naming service project, which basically creates this structure. I basically fed it. I did deep research in ChatGPT, fed it my research, and then said, go build me that. You can see the research here. This is how I go ahead and build it. Purpose. And there you go. Next thing you know, I've got an entire functioning system with certs and databases and protocols and threat analysis, everything you need, all built and ready to go. I got it in the morning, and I'm good to go. It's about as exciting a way to get up, and when you have something new waiting for you that was building all night, and that's essentially how I do it. A couple things to note here. In this case, I was using a memory bank structure, so it saves some of the information. So there's lots of different ways to deploy it, but everything you see is available if you want to give it a spin. Really cool system. You see the different endpoints here. So here's another example. There's the OpenAI documentation. There's a Swagger UI if you want to see the API itself. It's elegant. It's fast. It's light. Everything. I think I'm a pretty big fan of Mastra. After using it here for the last day or so, you can see here there's options for speaking. There's voice. There's listening options. Tool selections. There's networking if you want to cross networks. There's MCP registrations, telemetry, tons and tons of stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's worth taking a look if you're interested. But what I'm really interested in is trying to get this working, but I guess maybe it hasn't been fully rolled out yet. I'm curious, has anyone been able to get the codex? Is there a secret site that I'm not aware of, or? I'm trying to figure out where that is. I love a new coding system. There's probably nothing better. Maybe I'm gonna go old school and just do a quick search because I'm dying to find out. Open it. It was a Chat GPT Codex. Chat GPT Codex. Anyway, maybe I'll have to come back to that.
Anybody
Oh.
comes across it, let Roo know.
Oh, hang on a sec. It says, let's see here. Loading. There's got how Codex works. How do you get it to work? Is it no, I don't care about the stats. Anyway.
There's a try button at the top there.
Oh, there was? Oh, let's go back to that.
Ruben, I went in through the where did I went in through the login to the API, and it's over on the left.
Try with okay. It's on the left.
Yeah.
Oh.
Here,
Yeah. All right, let's go back to ChatGPT and see if you can find it.
Try Codex.
Oh, right. Okay, so one of these options on the left.
No, I went in. You know how you can log into ChatGPT either as you can log into the playground or you can log into
the platform.
ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's only available for pro users now. It's not for plus yet.
I've got everything under the sun. I've got 7 different accounts on tier 5. I'm sure I'll figure it out. I just need to go find where the button is.
So I think it's platform.openai.com. I think you
It's
just
the
need to
API
use
platform. If it
Yeah, there's a platform URL.
Here's where I found it.
Oh, it's in
right here.
It's in the platform. All right, let's go there and see if I can find it. Yeah,
Okay.
I needed to ask ChatGPT where to find it. It's like why call it ChatGPT if it's not in ChatGPT? But that would be the more obvious option. But we'll come back to that. I'm gonna fool around with it in the background. I see Sandy, so this is your opportunity, Sandy. You know, you're one of our early supporters, and love to hear more about your story and what you're up to.
Yeah, great to be back. I was telling before the call that I have been so busy that it seems like I always have a conflict with this. Every week there's a conflict. And so I finally had to block it and say, do not put anything over this time so that I can attend this meeting. So I used to come to them all the time and then got super busy with some other stuff, but really glad to be back. I'm the CISO at Splix AI. I shared some resources. I don't know. Did you look at our agentic radar, that we open sourced, Reuven? You
Yeah,
might
about a month
be.
ago, I think it was.
Yeah, we just did some updates so that it manages MCP too. So you guys, if you haven't looked at it lately, that might be something that allows you to scan and see your dependencies within your different agent things. I'm a core member of the OWASP top 10, so I talk a lot about AI security and all of the things. I shared a great book that I thought people on this call might be interested in that my friend Philip Dursey just published I just got it, so I made it through the first chapter and it's already heavily redlined. It's so good. But it's on AI red teaming. So I'm happy to be here, happy to talk about anything that I can help you with.
Yeah, so tell us more about what your release was. Like what's it focused on? What problems you guys solving with it?
Oh, okay. So also I shared my calendar. So what Splix does is we actually automate your AI red teaming. So I'm sure Reuven, you've posted about this. I'm sure other people have talked about, the importance of being able to go in and making sure that, hey, you can't trick whatever deployment, your chatbot or your agent into doing something it's not supposed to do. So we automate that process. We allow you to actually create your own custom probes, or what the tests are called. And then we align it with a dashboard so you can see, as a CISO, that's what I loved about it. When they first talked to me about joining the company, I was just like, I love the dashboard, being able to have visibility into it and see my alignment with different frameworks and get great reports very easily. So if anyone's interested in that, please book some time on my calendar. I'd love to show you what we're doing.
Okay. Yeah. So the security part, is probably the most, the biggest opportunity for like enterprise, adoption right now, right? There's this kind of misconception with a lot of enterprises that, that the LLM is going to magically, steal all your information and
No,
somehow, I hear that almost every day. It's like, oh, we need to use on-prem because the LLM is magically stealing our information. Yet they have no issue using, AWS or Google or Microsoft, which literally is their Dropbox and OneBox and whatever, right? Like,
absolutely, Ruben. Yep, yeah, preaching, preach, preach. I mean,
yeah.
it's just, it's what people are worried about and what they should be worried about. Really, my position on it is we absolutely have got you. Organizations have to deploy these solutions as fast as they can to get in front of all of the legacy problems that they have. Like, don't do it, with intent. Don't just throw it into an environment that you haven't got identity and data managed in. That's
Mhm.
like throwing gasoline on an old shack. But our adversaries are moving. Like, I think we talked about it a little bit on the pre-call. If I could help people understand how fast things are going, um, if I knew a good way, I mean, people like us who are passionate about us, I actually posted a triangle on this. Like, if you step out of our world, because all I talk about is AI and AI security, but if you step out of our world, um, there are very few people who really understand what's going on. And the further you move out of the tech space, the more lost they are. So, and Ruben, I think you talked a little bit about this, the importance of communication, understanding the business problem. I mean, those are skills. I'm a nerd, not nearly as nerdy as everybody else on this call, but the being able to communicate is probably the top skill that we all need to develop and get better at.
So,
Yeah.
Sandy, how
And
can I educate my leadership to persuade them to invest in the necessary security to keep any customer or publicly facing agents safe?
Oh, just set up a meeting with me. I have some really scary slides.
Can someone please repaste Sandy's link? Or Sandy, if you could
Uh,
please reprovide
it's
the
in the
link.
chat, Jed.
Correct, I joined late.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
Sandy,
that's
I wanna thank you for putting your hand up as far as the Genix Foundation's AI Safety and Responsible Deployment Committee. Fabrizio Sealy and a number of others have also, excuse me, sort of put their hands up to help build that resource, and we're looking forward to seeing that come together. So, thank you. You've been a member
yeah,
for the whole time, and it's really wonderful to have your expertise on that as well.
yeah. And I'm working, and so we can repurpose that. I spend a lot of time talking about it, so we can repurpose a lot of the stuff I've already done.
Yeah. It's Yeah, it's certainly an amazing time for sort of the adoption of this technology, and sometimes I don't know if it's like my skewed perception because I happen to be at the in the midst of it all, like, but it's become absolutely insane over the last few weeks. Like all of a sudden, the entire world seems to want some kind of MCP or an agent-based infrastructure. It's just absolutely astounding, and I'm wondering if others are seeing the same thing, or maybe it's just
I
me or
mean,
something.
I was at a CIO event yesterday, right? And obviously they were talking about agents and AI, but the awareness, even at the top C level, is very minimal. It's like this thing is coming, this is what it can do, etc. But the realization of, I guess, what it can do, I mean, I didn't decipher this as much. So this was it was a formal event organized by one of the Gartner competitors actually. So there's a lot of awareness required. What I also saw is opportunities of looking at, like, there were members that from English Heritage. These are non-profits, right? Our National Trust, which looks after sustainable solution, and others. I just feel that they have so much of need, and I think there's an opportunity to create this volunteer base that we have here to shape
Mhm.
some projects, and then show potentially the art of possibility and other stuff. So yeah, that's what came out. So one thing is, I think the real realization even at C-suite is very, very minimal
I,
about the impact.
yeah, I second that. I was at a CIO meeting a couple weeks ago, and we presented there, and one of the key insights that I carried out of that was the strategy right now for a lot of CIOs and a lot of companies in general is dabbling in AI. It's not really leveraging it to actually gain competitive advantage. It's dabbling. We're experimenting here. We're doing something there. We've implemented, like we had one from a billion-dollar plus company that said I don't trust any of our data that has pricing on it for our competitors in our Azure tenant. And I saw something, somebody wrote that in the chat here, and I'm like, why wouldn't you? Is it you got it emailed to you? It's probably in a OneDrive somewhere. It's in the same tenant. Like, why are you concerned about this? And it's AI literacy. They just don't know, and that's at the
Yeah.
CIO level, right?
And
So
hmm.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, your data point actually just echoed in my mind because everyone is hiding behind the fact that we need perfect data for AI, right? Everyone is hiding like data is, I understand it, but it's an old argument. But the whole point is no, you don't need perfect data. We move beyond the stage.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's a very senior individual, very experienced individual, but the industry is keeping on saying you need perfect data. So effectively, people are trying to still sell data management solutions. That's what is going on. So that this education thing is massive.
yeah,
Yeah. But to the point that, everyone's kicking the tires, 100%. Every company everywhere is kicking the tires on these agents. And the almost my daily conversation, I, work with the variety of companies that run the gamut from the biggest companies on the planet to random aspiring entrepreneurs. But the big companies are I think there's a couple assumptions that they're looking at. We're moving away from a purely human-centric web. And what does that actually mean? And we're looking at the broad drop in usage of traditional consumer websites across the board. Everybody is looking at right now. If you look at March, which is probably the most recent month for actual strong numbers, between a 20 and 40% drop in traffic for pretty much every consumer oriented website. And that's almost entirely being driven by this idea of zero click LLM driven search engines, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. And so everyone's scrambling to say, okay, how do we measure like the actual impact of our brand? How do we convince people to go from the support site to buy the product in on the e-commerce part of our site? And so there's this sort of reimagination of the web itself. And so part of, I think, my job as an agentic engineer is to help navigate this kind of reimagination of the web and websites. And it feels, as an old time guy that's been around since the beginning of the web, it feels like 1994. It's like everyone knows they need to create a website or this new thing called the web, but no one's quite sure exactly how to implement it or sort of, take advantage of it, which is a double-edged sword. It means that the incumbents are going to get their ass kicked if they don't do something quickly, and the ones that are looking to establish themselves, startups or outsiders, if you will, have the opportunity to step into the void that's potentially being left by those who don't quite get it. Rant over. All right.
And
Yeah.
Agenix robot text. Yes.
Yeah. And
Hey, one thing we talked about a few years ago, a couple years ago, actually. Do people like try to influence the LLM by just putting up a lot of content on the web that favors the company, so it will trickle down to the models, like when they scrape and train, like because, like for example, if you ask about like Facebook or John Deere, right, the LLMs would give you like extensive answer. If you ask about like Uncle John's like bicycle shed, they would probably have no idea, like so.
You know what I've noticed, and this is anecdotal at best, but my traffic is soaring, and I think the reason, and this is not I'm not like an SEO expert by any stretch. We'll leave that to Braun and others who spend a lot more time on that sort of thing. But here's a perfect example. This is a post I did like 2 weeks ago. A cookie cutter MCP. My posts are basically in the top couple spots, and I think it's driven specifically by things like my subreddit. And what's interesting is when I do a post, especially I post it to my subreddit, which has become really popular. I'm instantly in Google and Bing, right? Sometimes within minutes I've measured, and I think there's like this sort of fire hose of information from places like Reddit and X and others that directly influence where and how the information is indexed. But on the other problem of that is you get like the zero click component in Google where, well, this is it's not giving me a zero click, but let's say latest top gamer mouse or something, it skips. Of course, it's not working at the moment, but generally there's a little summary that gives you like all the top results without ever me having to go to that website. Of course, I'm going to show you it doesn't work, but you get the idea.
Would be interesting if you try to ask something like you posted 6 months ago and see if it shows up on the LLM. And I don't know if people SEO the LLMs, like, because if you whatever OpenAI, wherever they scrape the data, you just post a lot of content everywhere that kind of like drives to your site or something, right?
Yeah, anecdotally, I was using Perplexity this morning, and my company Varai came up in the search results as it was looking for, and we've had a team doing some SEO. And Roo, to your point about that Reddit channel, because there's so many followers on that channel, I guarantee you that the PageRank authority associated with that page is massive because of the number of followers. Because Reddit's one of the top authorities on the internet for content right now.
Interesting.
Yeah,
anybody knows like does OpenAI or like Anthropic, do they consider PageRank in the training?
OpenAI
They just give it
does
text.
have an agreement with Reddit.
They had to,
Google
yep.
also has an agreement with Reddit. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are ingesting the data in near real time.
No, but not ingesting, but do they consider PageRank as one of the
No, they
inputs?
wouldn't necessarily. Well, it's the other way around. Because there are so many followers of that page, right? In the context of the topic, right? That would give that page more authority than, let's say, me writing an article on an MCP server randomly on my personal blog.
Yeah. And I think the takeaway is there's consistency helps. Posting frequently. There's this other, if we're in the realm of anecdotal, I've been obviously vibing for 4 years with starting with the early versions of Codex, that came out in 2021, I think it was, and then ChatGPT, and a lot of the work that I do is in this kind of gray area of like the sort of what's possible but not yet been done, like hallucinations, and I kind of let the AI kind of guide me a little bit, and it's like, well, what if I combine this with that, and it's like, well, this should exist. Basically, it's kind of the area that I'm trying to play in. And what's interesting is what I've noticed is I'm building the things that it thinks should be built, but it hasn't yet been built. And then in later iterations, when I come back and I look at the things I built 2 years ago, it's like it's re-indexed. And now I'm like the result for the thing that originally wasn't built, that I built based on the input that it gave me that I should build. And now I'm like the top result for it. It's like this kind of self-reinforcement feedback loop or something.
On this topic, Sandy, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically what I said in the chat. Like, how do you feel about this kind of exposure in the agentic world, versus privacy concerns?
No, I'm just, as you're speaking, I'm actually posting an episode of the cognitive revolution in response to your question, which is this is an episode with a former person who worked at OpenAI talking about part of the challenge of moving forward will be what's real, what's not real, who's machine identity versus human identity. And in this episode, he didn't specifically call out, he talked about Sam Altman's eyeball thing, being a verified human. And It is. I absolutely have major concerns over privacy. I mean, if you watch, I mean, all of our data is getting sucked up everywhere. When I present, I talk about, think about every place you go. Went with a friend to some trampoline place to play with as a family. And as I walked in, I had to be able to go in and jump. I had to agree to being recorded. I had to share my information. I had to share all of that. Like privacy is a problem, but it's been a problem for a while. And I don't have great answers because it definitely all of this data collection, and I mean we're definitely in a world where it's complicated. And so like when I look around on the horizon and say, okay, what does the future look like? um I could see a splintering. Maybe part of the problem is that we're all trying to communicate on this big dirty internet that's full of horrible things. Maybe we splinter. If you think about cell phones when they first came out. I can remember when texting, you had to hit a key like 4 times to get the letter that you wanted. I was like, why would I ever spend 10 minutes trying to type hello when I could just call someone? So it's really hard. This is so huge. I've heard it compared to the wheel, fire, electricity. I don't think we know. I think the future, it's going to be rough for a little while, and the future is going to be really interesting.
A follow-up on that is, do you see any potential opportunities in this privacy area?
Um, I have startups that talk to me about governance solutions and everything. Here's the reality. We do not have a system that protects people's privacy or security today. Our technology world has never caught up from the physical world. So think about your policing system. Your policing system was set up because physical crime happened at a city, county, state, federal level. That's how it's funded, that's how it's operated. Where 90% of the huge crime that happens to people is actually from international crime. And that's handled, that group of people here in the United States is an incredibly small group of people that are trying to manage and stay in front of it. If you look at the most recent FBI Internet Crimes Report, the people who had, I don't remember, I think it was $15 billion. The most impacted group were people over 60. They lost a ton of money. So now the audits and SOC 2s and all of that. I mean, the reality is we haven't been in front of this. We have never had a great system. It's been a checkbox for a really long time. Security is really, really hard to do well. And it's been security theater, is to use Bruce Schneier's term. Like historically as a CISO, what you knew, we had you guys know the joke about finding two joggers or two hikers finding a grizzly bear, and one guy stops to put on his tennis shoes. All I had to do was outrun the next guy. I just had to have enough friction that there was other better targets for my adversaries. That has changed. I also posted a video that to a talk I went to in San Francisco that was absolutely terrifying, where a gentleman retrained llama to create his own version of a system that could become an AI worm. So I think the future is rough. I think it's going to be interesting. I think people are doing a lot of stuff really fast. Security's always taken a back seat. It took us 40 years to get x-rays before they wouldn't, kill people. So, we're, uh, like security and people's protections, asbestos. I mean, I can give up, like looms. I mean, people had to die and have harm before we figured out a way. I think the complexity here is we actually have to rewrite the entire rules to create a safe world. So that's a really complex, not good answer to a difficult question.
So,
So
do you think it's...
on that note, let's move on to our presentations. Thanks. Appreciate all the great feedback here. Rob, are you still here?
Yep. And we've got Alex. He's got some tools he wants to share from his workflow, his AI stuff.
All
Hey,
right.
Alex.
You know, the irony behind everything today is that Docker has completely broken on my machine and it won't spin up. So we're going to look at VS Code in terms of my desktop. So on the theme of data and privacy and clean data and not clean data. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Alex DeBold. I'm on my 4th startup. This one's called Verai. Can you guys see my screen? I can't see what's going on anymore. Okay. So I'm dealing in the eyewear industry, where 1 billion pairs of frames are made every single year. And like apparently 4 billion people already need glasses and most of them don't have it. Here's the challenge. The vast majority of these opticians, including our friend David Crow in Toronto, whose wife is an optician, they're using software from probably 20 years ago. Opticians are horribly behind the existing market. So I have customers in Kuwait, in Europe, in North America, and there's a couple of key themes. One is they don't know what to do with their own data. This one retailer has 600 stores and people are manually entering SKUs. And they're like, I want to be able to support my customers online. I'm like, well, what do you have? Half big data, like literally half big data from data entry. So one of the first things that I had to do is actually build something that I called SKU Genie. Now let's just find it here. We talked about, scraping and data cleaning. So I built a system that said, look, I'm not going to be in the business of actually doing this every single day. Like it's not worth it. So how can we apply AI in a way that it makes everybody's life easier? And hopefully you can see this at this point. So the intent was like, look, man, we should actually have an application that is always on, almost like a cloud function. Theoretically, this could be an MCP that's called as an application that is always continuously cleaning people's data. Because whether it's my customer in Europe or the Middle East, even though there's a fixed number of manufacturers, nobody's doing data entry properly. Why is data so important? Because you can't actually build any AI models for recommendations. So, for Gideon, that he's got a pair of glasses, in theory, his optician should send him an email in a year when his insurance policy says, hey, you're due for another pair of glasses, right? The AI should be able to look back at the prior frames that he bought or Roo bought or whoever's wearing glasses and say, hey, this person tends to like these kinds of glasses. Go fetch the SKUs, look at the color, style, pattern, shape, and width of glasses that this person's bought in the past, and send them an email with the new ones. None of that is possible, right? At all, whatsoever. So this is basically done, kind of sitting in kind of my development environment and almost ready to go in terms of the system. The second part around data and security, as Sandy was talking about it, is that I actually had to build a dual deployment strategy. So where I was kind of messaging the startup channel on WhatsApp is basically saying, look, if I'm going to run my staging environment, I actually have to build a dual deployment model. So I might have this core concept of engines that are running in the background for intelligent recommendations for frames. But because people in Europe have specific requirements, I have to have a central repository where I'm building my models, but then I have to deploy independent models as they interact with customers on behalf of the retailers, right? And it has to be HIPAA, FIHR compliant, and data cannot and it cannot actually transverse borders. So the data consumed by my customer in the UK or in France has to stay in that market. So the models can be trained separately. So there's a whole other layer of code here that basically says we have a centralized model. We're going to deploy the model. That model is going to learn from data in those markets. That's anonymized. There's a whole bunch of legal and insurance that I still have to figure out around this in terms of operationalizing it. And then secondly, each individual site has to be separate. So retailer 1 can't see what retailer 2 sees, that can't see what retailer 3 says, but on an anonymized level, if I'm the manufacturer, I want to be able to see how my frames are doing. So Verai actually stands for a vertical AI stack in the eyewear industry. So so I've gotten to the point where all the individual components are built. The interesting / annoying challenge is that I've used my experience in tech to basically outpace my developers. Like I think 2 million lines of code have been committed in the last month and a half following this new Spark framework. So thank you, Roo. The challenge, though, is that while everything passes unit tests locally and I'm compiling my Docker file and pushing it to live, it starts breaking. It's like, why are you working locally and I'm able to execute everything? But the second I start doing this deployment model with the different environments, it starts breaking. So it's interesting times, but the lightning talk is basically data is important. You have to have clean data. From clean data, I can make recommendations. From recommendations, I can start capturing all of the user-related information or transaction-related information. But there's a whole other level, as Sandy was saying, around data security. There's 3 major retailers that I'm talking to right now in Europe, and they are scared witless about what AI will do to their stores. And how do you anonymize personal information from the retail level so that Sandy can get an email that doesn't include all of the personal information? So how do you link AI into this existing legacy business? And I'm no word of a lie. I was talking to the CMO of one of these retailers, and he's like, look, this guy who's our CTO, he said, I got in trouble. I was pushing for AI. He's ex-L'Oreal. I'm pushing for AI, pushing for CRM. And it's like, if this guy quits, nobody knows how to run the system. So we have 650 employees. We have a system that hasn't been upgraded in 5 years. I can get you the data. I can literally see the string. Like he sent me the API documentation on a public URL. I'm like, but I can see the URL. He goes, I can't give it to you. If this guy quits, we don't know what we're going to do. So it kind of touches on all of the topics, right? So you've got EU regulations, we've got data cleaning, you've got data hygiene, and you've got data orchestration, and you've got to make sure that it sits independently in these locations, or else there's hell to pay.
It's interesting you mentioned that because that's like been my reoccurring theme the last week or so. It's like I'm working with some large consumer companies, and they're all saying exactly what you just said. And they're struggling with this idea of the integration of existing legacy data, the ability to make it readily available both internally, just to their own people in a uniform way, but also potentially externally. Like, what if I want my supply chain to interact with us programmatically, and as for all the reasons you just outlined. So it's a huge opportunity. And to Ocean's point, where are some of the opportunities in the space? Well, there's obviously opportunities to secure that entire life cycle in the ways that Sandy has mentioned, but there's also the opportunity to instrument all those things in a way that's streamlined, it has introspection to understand where and what's happening and why it's happening, or just be kind of like, some of the consultants in the group, be the person that facilitates that transformation.
I thought the same thing, Ruben. When he was describing it, I thought there's the opportunity, build that layer, because if you're finding that problem with agentic and trying to implement it, everybody else will have it. Will have that same issue. But just to make another point around the regulation in the future, I don't think the way that we have governance and technology, HIPAA. I mean, how many people got letters because their personal health data was impacted? I think I got 4 of them. Yeah, okay. So it's not working. It's a law that was put up in 1996, way before we do what we do. And so the thing that drives HIPAA and all of this, what they're worried about is legal. It's lawyers is what they're concerned about. They're not concerned about privacy or security, really. They're worried about getting sued. So I anticipate, and again, this is for the big thinkers, which is if you look over the horizon, we've got to develop a different way to solve for security and privacy in the future without driving it through HIPAA and regulation laws, because they don't move at the speed of technology. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'm telling you that everyone who's telling you about how their ideas around AI governance, um, it, it's lipstick on a pig. It's computationally impossible to do it. It was hard and really wasn't working well before. It's computationally impossible to do some of the governance things that people are talking about around AI.
One of the first things that I did is we have a cyber insurance policy of $5 million. Even though I'm not touching a lot of data yet, the number one thing that I made sure that my startup did was get policy around cyber insurance. Like quite literally. And there's an interesting guy in Calgary who I follow on Instagram who who basically says, look, like there's two different kinds of people. There's the people who do all of these vibe coding videos online saying, hey, just get your clients to use, oh my goodness, Zapier and connect to the infrastructure. And this other guy's like, you're kidding. If you don't know Python, like there's not a single enterprise class customer. Like Roo has got multiple, he's talked about it in the past, he's got multiple lockdown laptops given to him by the customer.
It's a stack. I
Yeah.
can see it right now. Every one of my enterprise customers sends me a laptop, and it mostly gathers dust for the one meeting I need to do in Microsoft Teams. They're all Teams that require that stupid laptop with, one of 5 flavors of VPN.
Yeah. But the point is that like they will never give you access to their data directly to connect through Zapier or some other external API call. So there's also a bifurcation if people are thinking about consulting of like, how do you sit on the outside? Because how do you sit on the outside and support? Because the tier one, the tier one consultancies basically are big enough to sue if they get it wrong, right? Which is kind of part of the battle of always trying to find customers, right? So I'm taking the approach that I'm going to deliver a vertical solution within the IR industry. I think it can be applied to other markets, but cover your own butt. If you're a consultant or want to be a consultant and you want to engage with people, you should probably consider professional liability insurance.
I take a different stance, just FYI. So I'm more loosey goosey in my keep in mind I've got 60 customers and I'm one guy. So the key to me and the way I work is one, I make it frictionless to gain access to my time. So you go on my website, you pull out the little, you use my calendar, you put in your credit card, and you literally earn my calendar if you're willing to pay. And generally that involves an NDA. But at which point it's frictionless. That means, and I work with the largest tech companies as well as everyone else, and to get there, all they're really doing is basically sending me an NDA and using their expense card. Now, is that official? And is how many policies does that break? Who the hell knows? But it certainly works right now. So if you are a consultant and you're looking to gain access, it's never been easier to gain access to big companies just by being loud and doing this sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's interesting you notice the whole thing because that's what my experience currently is, because we got in a company the vibe coding like to very like very sophisticated. So last time we did vibe coding session with the group, we got the working code within like 40 minutes. It actually took longer to understand what we want basically for the app, right? The coding was just, the client just did the whole thing almost completely. But then it takes me like 4 days, almost like full-time work, is to actually make all the IT people happy, legal happy, to actually get it deployed, because you get an app running on a laptop or in the whatever your GitHub environment, and then now you want to actually talk to real like data feeds, you want to talk to like give it real controls, and that takes I think right now, so it was 1 hour versus like 36 hours, like 35 hours of actual work.
Yep.
Getting that up to getting in there. So that's
yeah.
Rob has his hand up, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, I've been a big part of this watching part of the WhatsApp group, where I've taken so much information, and I can't believe you exist. I just got to give credit to where credit is due, and it's a wonderful community. And I've now built 2 or 3 applications, and the amount of information is incredible. And I just wanted to talk on one point about literacy, because I'm big into bias on AI. A perfect example, a great test everyone should do is, who am I? Just go to your chat GPT and see how it classifies who you are. My sister was big into EDI and DEI, diversity inclusion, and when it said who she was, she thought she was a Black person who and so there's so much bias that's placed into AI that I think everyone needs to be careful. The other thing is around literacy. I find that literacy fails on so many fronts. When you talk about financial literacy, talk about cyber literacy, which is like even just cyber hygiene, AI literacy. The general idea behind literacy is people are lazy to understand the first principles of things. When you think about cyber, most breaches, like 95%, happen because of human error. there's a significant increase in security if you just did some minor tweaks to your routines and your habits to have some form of security hygiene. So I feel like the question is, how do you get the grassroots adoption around what literacy is needed for the future of our digital world? And and I don't know. That's a good question. Like, to me, that's like, how do you raise the bar? And is this a cultural thing where certain countries are just doing it better because they've invested in it more and force people to adopt it? Is there,
It's not, I don't think it's, I don't think it's cultural. I think again, I've got customers in more than 24 countries at this point, and there are two groups of people: those who want to learn and empower themselves to be more than what they are, and that's human nature, right? And then there are the people who are lazy and want to have cognitive offload of their thinking process, and they use AI as a way to cut corners. There are always going to be lazy people who don't want to learn or be more than what they are, and they're content in their complacency. That's just the segment of the human population, regardless of society. And then there's the other people, which I hope are on this call, that see AI as the ultimate sort of cognitive prophylactic, right? That gives you the ability to think, understand things that were never possible. It acts as a common interface to complex things, right? That's the portion of the population that I want to embrace. Lazy, dumb people are always going to be lazy and dumb, and there's nothing much I can do about that segment of the population, in my opinion.
I'm going to be a little more forgiving. I don't have to become a brakes expert to be able to drive my truck and not have a disaster. And I don't walk into the grocery store and say, oh, I'm an expert on food and, I know how to pick out safe food. I mean, I think these are solutions. We dump the internet, we dump these tools on people, and we haven't really helped them, given them things. And part of it is we don't expect them to pay for it. So maybe there's an opportunity to build safer things that there's a higher price tag for, where you don't have to become educated. I think there's a lot of possibilities for the future.
I love your positivity, and maybe I'm too black and white in my perspective. And so you give humanity a lot more faith, I guess. And I love that, by the way.
Well, I'm not an expert. I trust my doctor. Like I can't be an expert at everything. And so you have to trust and rely on other people, and to build safe systems that we can use.
I'm the opposite of you. I don't trust my doctor. I need a second deep research on everything that shows up, and I'm always trying to hack the multiverse if I can. And maybe that's just the way I operate. So whether it's my brakes in my car, do I really need brakes? Do I really need that update? And half the time I realize I didn't need it, and I just needed a new screw or something. And I'm like, I told you.
Yeah,
But
true. That's true.
And then occasionally I'm wrong, and then I have to hear from my wife and the kids. They're like, why don't you trust anyone? But it's glass half empty, glass half full, I guess.
I got to drop. It is so fun. Can't wait to be back. Not next week, but I will come in. I'll give you a threat report. I'll talk to you, answer. It's been really fun to be back in. Obviously, I hope I can contribute and really help with some of the research and places that I play. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Great to listen to you.
I know we lost one of our Roberts. Did we skip anyone that wanted to give a presentation or show anything? Because this is your chance. This is the open mic portion. You can show anything you like. Otherwise, I've got lots to show if you want to jump in. There's some new features in Roo that rolled out yesterday. There's my agentic robots text, which is all of a sudden really popular.
I have a quick question.
Okay, yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Does OpenAI's acquisition, I think they just bought Cursor a week or so ago. Does that signal Windsurf, sorry. Should I dabble in that, or should I stick with Roo code? I mean, I don't want to like dilute my attention, but
what is Windsurf is what you're really asking, and what is Cursor? And so when you look at these projects, both are basically variants on a packaged version of VS Code, right? VSX something or other is basically a way you can, and I've attempted to create my own package similar to that. what those packages essentially are a bundled version of a VS Code extension with some modifications to the UI. So, when you look like, I was thinking about creating basically a dedicated version of VS Code for Roo just because that's all it is, right? So the reason I like Roo code, and I've tried obviously all of them, is I can go and directly modify the source code of the extension. So I've got versions that are basically my own that do all kinds of interesting things because I can basically vibe the core of the extension itself. I can see how they built it. I can create modifications. I can't really do that with Windsurf. So for me, I like the openness, the community that's around Klein and Roo in particular, and the ability to modify it if I need to, or at least understand how it's built. But I think that what we're seeing, and this is my opinion, in terms of Windsurf and Cursor in particular, is we found a killer application for LLMs and AI in code. And what that really means is a lot of developers are going to have to dramatically change how they build and what the purpose of a developer even is for the next over the next probably few years. So
yeah, on that topic, Ruben, you're right. So there's an article that just was posted. I don't know whether it was on LinkedIn or somewhere, and they basically said that there are two main markets of the AI industry have been validated as absolutely undeniably real, and one is RAG, and the other one is code assistance. They've all VCs now and everybody or customers like undeniably they believe that they are the two most validated and recognized markets of the industry.
Yes, 100%.
Yep. So you're going to see tons of stuff now get funded and products all in those industries and those markets.
But vibe coding, whatever you want to call it, and code and the insertion and usage of data within a structured pipeline like RAG, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So vibe coding will become a big thing of the coding assistant. Some companies will not use vibe coding internally because I guess it'll be too random, too unstructured, whatever, right? But other companies will, right? So vibe will be a big chunk of that market. RAG is 51% of every agentic pipeline or app you see today now has some version of a RAG component. They're the two most validated markets, and no one questions them anymore.
No.
Yeah. But I guess I have like 2 points to the things. So first about the cursor, I found I use it for sort of micromanaging the code, like because I use both like Klein and Roo, like for doing like high level stuff, but sometimes you just want to like format your code or like convert from like JSON to YAML or something, or you just highlight the code and do it in cursor because Roo can do it, but it will like trigger basically a huge like conversation with LLM, and Cursor is much faster at that. And actually writing specs like all these things. And another thing about Cursor, it's actually annoying because Microsoft is trying to, because when you try to build your own Visual Studio, you're going with this open source Codium version. And like lots of things that you kind of think they always going to work, they don't. For example, you cannot connect to GitHub code space from like open source Visual Studio. I mean, you can, but you have to jump through a bunch of hoops. And recently, Microsoft made the C++ plugin. It doesn't work for the extension. It doesn't work with Cursor because they just detect this as like open source. It just don't. Yeah, so that's my kind of 2 takes on that. And actually, and the last one about vibe coding, people say it doesn't work. I find it work if you ground it enough. You need to sort of like have a library of your corporate kind of things because I've been making Slack bots, and you just come up with a bunch of templates how you talk to internal like enterprise systems, and you just give it to the LLM either as RAG or as templates, because that way it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel or make something.
Exactly. There's the secret to vibe coding, if you're going to take anything away from today's call, is to start with a template, like in Python cookie cutter, in Node.js, in npx create dash something. What you don't want to do is you don't want to create the scaffolding with the vibe coding system like Roo or Cursor or whatever it is. When you look at Lovable, the reason Lovable works great at the very beginning and terrible at the very end is the fact that they've really figured out how to create a very standardized Vite.js package that includes a really nice UI component and some other, some Supabase integration and a few other sort of key packages that they bootstrap when you first start the project. So if you want to build absolutely anything as a vibe coder, first research what the best scaffolding for that would be, and search specifically for Python cookie cutter template or MPX create library, and that'll save you $30 and
But I also, that's what I started, I find it very helpful, is just build not this scaffolding, but also like little modules. Like, so for example, you need enterprise sensor data. Here is example, we just give it like little example project. You say, don't invent like your own, like how you talk to Q server, just look at this template and just do some like exactly what's here. Or if you want to make Slack bot, like you say like, look at our like current Slack bots and just implement one like that. So I find it helps a lot. There is because last time we did web coding session, it took maybe like 20 minutes to make it sort of usable. Like after like the client was running for like 40 minutes, like and doing its own thing. Like
yeah, and that's probably because you spent 20 minutes of planning, and sometimes you want to get to the functional example quickly. So for that, what I do is I explicitly say to skip the planning phase and then I give it a bit of guidance in the initial prompt, create the scaffolding, then give me a UI or whatever, and that usually takes
and
5
actually,
to 10 minutes.
Got impressed with the whole client because the last web coding session we did, it was like some rough edges at sort of on the outer level on the systems. I did not even look at the internals, what it coded. It just works because I just put things on the queue and it shows up in database. I have like zero knowledge of like what's.
It's funny because again, I do a lot of these hourly vibe coding sessions. People literally hire me to vibe with them for an hour, which who knew that was a job? But the takeaway on an hour-long vibe coding session is it's really expensive to hire me for an hour, so I can't spend 40 minutes, creating, detailed directions. So they want to see something quick, right? To feel like, the time is worthwhile. So I take a top-down approach. So I start, rather than creating detailed planning docs, which you probably should, I start with detailed mock UI components. So I make it look real, but it's not connected to anything. It's all mock data. It's faked until and once they're happy with the way it looks and sort of kind of works, then they can go and build it out and I can let it run for several hours later.
Yeah, but for me, like it's actually we can code UI very quickly but it's very little, and it's typical on enterprise. Lots of our stuff, it's all industrial control software or lab control. There is no UI; it just runs by itself. Like so, so most of the code you want to take basically from one instrument and basically stick it to some like analytics or lab management software. So it's the UI is already there. Like UI is on the instrument or UI is on the analytics package. Like
actually, I think that the interesting part behind this, because I've built 4 separate projects in the span of the last 3 months, all part of the IR industry, like retail, project management. Like I've built 4 different platforms, and I think the interesting thing here is basically actually identifying what your outcome is. So if your goal is like an MVP, this is your approach at using Cursor or Roo, right? Versus having to build the full enterprise platform like I've done. So it's kind of like if you understand what the output is, like Roo said, like bypass all of the prompting and the setup to say, I want a simple demo, therefore my input should be this. I'm expecting an output of this, with the clients up front to kind of set those expectations, because there's a lot of time and energy that goes into scaffolding an enterprise application versus, hey, I want a POC. What does a POC look like from a vibe coding session, right? And by the way, the other thing that I found super interesting, like I've parted ways with one of the developers in my company because he kind of was refusing to adopt agentic development approaches. And, in the last 2 weeks, you have both Anthropic and Sam from OpenAI saying 90% of our code is written by AI. So
100% of my code, almost 100% of my code at this point is written by AI. And it's funny when I get on these calls, there are 2 groups of users, and I hope none of the people I'm about to mention broadly are on this call. But there's a group of users that are really hate me, and they tend to be data scientists. and Zoom is a very visual medium, so I can see that sort of scowl on their face while I'm describing how I'm basically going to replace their what they do. And often when I'm brought in to do data science related work, although their boss isn't saying it, they know it. I'm completely automating what a data scientist does, and the bar for when you look at what a data scientist does, it's a lot of trial and error. It's like trying to find the coherence in the data. We're getting to a certain threshold for positive versus negative, getting the same result more than X amount of times. And to get that, what a data scientist generally does is a lot of just trial and error until they get the result that they're looking for, which is perfect for an agent who just does it and does it and does it concurrently until they get the result. And this, what would take a data scientist months can happen in a matter of hours. And then the question is, what do I need the data scientist for when 90% of their job is just trial and error?
Yeah, but there was a joke about data scientists years ago that there are these people who don't really know statistics and they don't know like software development. They just know like a little bit about both, and that's the
and they cost like 3 times the price of a regular employee. That's the problem with the data scientist industry, right? Is that it's why Cloudera and Hadoop and Hortonworks, like they all merged because their customer base is only the top of the triangle, where they could have those companies like Uber and Lyft and Meta and Google and all those companies. They're the only companies that can afford a data scientist team as part of their product engineering and product management team. Like everybody else couldn't afford them.
Well, that's why R exists. The coding language literally exists because only a small fraction of people know how to program in R, and they happen to be data analysts. And the reality is, now I can do R just by asking it to convert my Python, which is works, and I just convert that to R. I'm done. That took 10 minutes. Yeah, it's nothing again. And I don't mean to knock on data scientists, obviously, but it's definitely the most disruptable portion of the segment right now.
How about bioinformaticians? Because they are the same things. They're kind of like not really biologists and that not really software developers. They're kind of people who know a little bit of both, and they know a little bit of
semantics
right?
at that point.
No, it's not semantics. And that example that I was giving you of the person who was not pleased to see me was actually bioinformatics. It was specifically for a pharmaceutical company. And I get it. I get why. I'm like, I'm what like a management consultant would have been 25 years ago that was deciding what to outsource or offshore, right? I can understand why I wouldn't be the most popular guy.
Has anyone made progress in agentic SQL querying?
Oh yeah.
What do you mean, text to SQL, natural language SQL?
I give it a schema representing in excess of hundreds of tables, and it takes all of that lumpy dumped data and turns it into information.
Yeah, it's MCP. There's tons of them. The best.
I mean, I used to work for the last 18 months for a company called MindsDB that actually was a early adopter of that, an early pioneer in that space. And text to SQL is like pretty much, they had that was unique like 4 or 5 years ago. Now it's like there's just thousands, literally just thousands of tools that can do that.
Trivial.
It's pretty trivial. And what the real
do it.
trick is that you want to, it's not so much the text to SQL, it's actually giving it information about the schema and the names of the tables and the sort of the structure of what's in there. And then it really performs well.
Yeah. For me, when I do that, I'm using MCP. So there's a number of MCPs for like Postgres or various data lakes. And I just pointed at that and I am basically optimize it, convert it, do whatever you need to do to figure it out. And I go have dinner.
So Trino is a company, Firebase, Trino and Starburst. They are all early adopters, early innovators in that space.
Yeah, Databricks actually, they always had a model for years. I actually talked to a person, they said they just did it, so they proved they can do LLMs. It does exactly that. I'm not sure it goes against SQL or the Spark, but you can give it natural language query and it will like.
Here's what the Supabase MCP looks like. You've got your organizations, you've got your projects, you've got your costs, and you've got the ability to basically list your tables. You can run the most useful part of this, to be honest, is the apply migrations, which allows you to apply triggers. I guess I'm not logged in, but whatever. And then the execute SQL, and it just does it, right? And then and then you use this MCP as part of several other MCPs. So I might have another MCP that orchestrates my AWS or Azure or whatever it is, and then then I'll create a bespoke MCP just for a particular customer's data or API, and then I have them all orchestrate each other.
Yeah, now what's difficult though is federated SQL across multiple databases as one big SQL statement. That's difficult to do. It's easy to do it like MCP wise or dedicated for a database like Superbase, doing your text to SQL for that particular instance of that database or that schema or that table space or that structure. But doing a SQL statement like a multi-table join across different databases, federated SQL statements across multiple databases of different structure, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I'm still employed, writing
Yeah,
SQL
I mean, you might
queries
a lot of
requiring 8 or
enterprises
9
have
tables.
Yeah, and then, you got Oracle, you got SQL Server, you got Neo4j, you got Mongo, and you're trying to build an app that's actually looking at all of that data in one app, and then trying to do some fancy SQL multi-table join, multi-table space, multi-instance join. That's very difficult. Text to SQL on one instance, easy.
I'm sure we'd figure out a way to do it. But you're right. It's tricky. You probably might need an intermediary sort of layer of some sort to normalize it.
Yep.
All right, we're running low on time. Hey, guys, there's a new feature, by the way, in Roo that came out yesterday for the Roo fans. We obviously I'm a Roo fan. Let me show you that for just quick. Check this out. And so when you go into your prompts, you now have the ability to define when to use, describe when the mode should be used. And if you've ever run into the problem where the orchestrator sometimes doesn't know when to choose which one, this solves that problem. So you can go in there, you can type in test or whatever, and then see now we've got a where'd it go? Not saving it for some reason, but anyway, that provides a mechanism to here it is, when to use. So I'm going to update the Spark protocol to include that. I got to do some testing, but
you might want to change. It says MCP management control panel in the role definition.
Oh yeah.
Unless that's purposeful.
It always does that.
It still doesn't know what MCP is. Even 3.7 still says some other thing, anything but model context.
Yeah, I'm constantly changing that. I mean, I've been messing around with this morning. That's why it's changed. But yeah, it's kind of a cool feature. And oops. All right. I guess we're near the end here. And any guys, anything else you guys want to discuss before we call it a week?
Yeah, quick one. I managed to actually use the reverse pipe coding of the platform that we were showing yesterday. We had lots of errors, right? So to try and customize it for to meet a specific need. So basically, was it agent? Was it the auto agent? Is it? What was it?
Was that the LangChain?
Fiber technology auto analyst, right?
Oh yeah. That worked. The LangChain one I gave up on. I never looked at it again. Yeah. Anything you want to show?
Oh yeah, I can quickly show a couple of things actually. I've been vibe coding, so I've been gaining my confidence doing so. Let me just share my screen. I'm just looking for the share button, which has decided to hide itself for me. Where is there more button, I guess?
Zoom is generally in the middle.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Zoom is staring at me. You're right. So hopefully you can see my screen now. Yeah.
Yes.
So I managed to do two things. One is obviously the one I was saying. You see, there's been some errors, but a bit of customization around that. So go back. It is working. It broke because I changed some code, but effectively, basically got it to start, added some customization features because I'm trying to do an automotive demo. So get started, kind of got it to store some API keys. The chat feature is not entirely working, by the way, so I need to figure out why. So what do you see?
You made the automotive analyst. The name works.
Yeah, so it's an automotive file effectively. So I've got basically some, the idea is to take free API data and allow some kind of front-end visualization of what the data is from the industry. That's what I was thinking. But anyway, this is working.
Are
But
you using something like Lovable for your layout?
no, this is basically these guys, like they open source the product, this product. So basically,
Auto Analyst.
yeah, I've just used it. I'm just going to build on top of it to see what they are. So changing some features there. So I did that, and then I mean, I guess you were talking about the vibe coding exercises Roo did, right? So I've kind of tried to create some kind of legal document processing system. So similarly, I can just what I've done here, though, I'm not using Roo. I have used your rules, but I have effectively used Cursor. So I've found a way of operating within Cursor. So creating some specific Cursor rules using your stuff, and added UX.
And I've got a Cursor version too. I don't think I've published it, but yeah, basically exactly what you did.
Yeah, and obviously using that, this one is effectively helping overcome a manual process of legal processing, and that translated into kind of an app where you can upload a document, for example. In fact, I can go down to the demo setting and start the demo probably. We can do that. Start a demo. So if you have a property deed, for example, and you want to upload the property deed information, which is here, and then you just select a property deed, and it's currently mocked up, but the upload feature works. So the whole point about validating the OCR processing, analyzing the structure of it, extracting the entities, and knowledge graph. It doesn't really have machine learning models behind yet, but obviously that can be integrated. So all I'm trying to show is that I guess what you have been showcasing. I mean, my role has been as a program director, program manager, right? So I'm not necessarily coded, but I can see personally in these job roles how an idea, I think the definition of jobs in terms of making sure as an individual contributor, your role is actually to take a concept to a stage, and then you're gonna build it. It's really fast track. So anyways, that's what I wanted to show without taking you very much. But there are some interesting things that come about here, like knowledge graphs. So these have all got auto-created through the process. And I think what has really helped, as you said, is this research element. So to kind of to have this final report with a plan and the phases defined around it, that provides the guardrails, I guess, for the AI. It's not loading up for some reason. But I'll stop here.
Great.
Very quickly.
Nice work. Yeah, looks really good. So and the key, what I liked about that, the auto analyst, it was, it's a little bit half baked, but it's a good running start, right? It gives you a bunch of stuff that you can kind of run and modify yourself, right? Like you can add some additional logic or some agents, whatever, and it'll get you moving quickly. I think that's the takeaway is make sure you borrow or create from someone that's already started and put together some other things. Don't try to build from the ground up. It's just extra work, and then you spend all this time building, and debugging things that don't matter. Modify what already exists if you can. All right. Well, it's another week. I'm excited. I'm excited to get that Codex thing working. I don't think I have access yet. If anyone else does, let me know. It looks very similar to the GitHub workspaces project, to be honest. It's like basically, I think, the same general idea as that. So, but if it's included in the ChatGPT license, so that's a plus. Once I get access, I'll give you my 2 cents on how that works. We got Rachel. Do you have a question? Working with self-monitoring agentic structures inside ChatGPT Pro. That sounds cool.
Yes. So this is a new project, personal project, separate from my professional AI work. So just something that I've been super vibed about and haven't necessarily been able to find research to show that people have supported this before. But OpenAI has been throttling me very, very consistently and shutting down my account because I have way too much activity going on. So I'm just curious to see if anybody else has kind of had that self-automated agentic structure inside of ChatGPT.
There was a project that I shared a couple weeks ago. It was a browser extension for Chrome that allows you to automate
Super
sort of
Assistant.
Super assistant does that.
I
You should try
packaged
it.
it for Firefox as well. If anyone uses
Yeah.
Firefox.
Yeah, can you share a link to that if you got it handy?
I haven't published it to GitHub. I can though. So far, I've just been using it as a personal thing. But yeah, I will do that now.
Yeah,
so
it's cool, right?
Yeah, so right now I've been able to do that just right inside my ChatGPT account with no external integrations. So it's just a continuously self-monitoring loop with self-prompting and role assignments.
There was another approach that I demoed last year called Grease Monkey, it was. And that's also an extension for both Firefox and Chrome that allows you to create these scripts that automate sort of page interactions. But the Super Assistant's better.
Okay,
but
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so yeah, be careful, you will get throttled for sure. That's a problem I think they want you to use API for more complex things. But if you're feeling so inclined, the agent framework for OpenAI is really good for that sort of thing.
Okay, definitely. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah, and I've got a repo where I create so much stuff I can't even remember what it's called. But about a month ago, I created an example. I think it's in my Edge functions repo. There's let me find that. Yeah, here. I'll put that if you don't mind, working in code. But there's a OpenAI agent that I created in there. I think it's in the scripts folder.
Spectacular. Thank you.
That'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, all right. So thanks everyone who's tuned in for almost an hour and a half. This is always the highlight of my week. So I appreciate everyone who sticks it out to the end. Alex and Rob and Max and everyone that's joined here. Thank you. Thanks again. Always happy to help. If you have questions, feel free to join we've got a Discord, which we're trying to get off the ground, and we got our WhatsApp channel, and we got the Reddit and LinkedIn, whatever. Feel free to reach out. I apologize. I'm sometimes swamped with meetings and inbox stuff. I do my best to respond, but it's overwhelming at times. But anyway, appreciate it. We're doing London, I think, next week, as Rob said earlier. So anyone in London, definitely talk to Bence, who's organizing it. Bence, you still on the call? Like I see your name there. How's that coming along?
I'm here. Yeah. Hi, everyone.
So yeah, you moved to a different venue? Is that?
Yeah, Requesty sorted out the Google, one of the Google venues in St. Giles in central London. So 60 people are coming, and Mondwe is a co-organizer as well. Some other people as well, Vincent and others. So 760 organizers. So we're gonna have a super cool agenda.
Yeah. If I ever left my house, I would definitely join you in London. I've actually got a few customers that I'm working with in London. I just never leave, unfortunately.
Yeah, hopefully next time. It's oversubscribed, so there are waiting lists now.
Perfect. Oh well, congratulations. That's great. And you've got a structure already. Like what format are you going to use?
Yeah, so we're gonna give out some homework for the next few days, and everybody should have a Roo installed and VS Code and NPX running properly, because we don't want to spend time, setting up one-to-one support. And then we're gonna, create groups and create an app from scratch, and gonna live stream as well. So it will be very nice. I made this in Berlin, and it's big. It's a lot of fun to see people building something for the first time.
Awesome. I'm excited. I'm setting up I think I'm going to set up a Restream account if you're looking to stream live, and that'll integrate with some of the various portals and things. Just ping me on WhatsApp and I can get you access to that.
Yeah. Ping you then.
All right. All right. That's it. I'm heading to the lake for a long weekend here in Canada. The weather is beautiful. At least today it is anyway. So happy weekend and happy vibing.
Mm-hmm.
Till
Thank you.
next week.
Thank you,
All right.
Ruben.
Thank
Okay.
you, Ruben.
My
Have a nice
pleasure.
one.